Hey everybody, Kennis Russell here. I hope you're doing well. Well, I was thinking the other day, I've come to the realization that I am not as good of a musician as I used to be. And it's a sobering thought, it's a sobering idea, and I don't know. It's I don't know how I quite feel about it, but I'm not really liking it. But it is true. And there's a common misconception, I think, a lot of times amongst musicians, and that is that, like, whatever level you're at is the level you'll always be at. So, like, I've put in this many thousands of hours of practice, and therefore I am this good, and I will always be this good. So if I kind of put it aside for a while and not play as much and not woodshed, then, it'll be, when I come back, I'll be at the same place. And it's not really the case. That is not the case with music. And I had a conversation with somebody recently, and I was, as a musician that amazing keyboard player, and I was explaining this to him, and he said, well, how often do you sit in woodshed? And I was like, man, not often, not really that often. I practice, or I play, a little bit before a rehearsal, just to kind of familiarize myself with the songs. And then rehearsal and I play at church. So then on Sunday mornings, that's about it. And he said, well, that's your problem right there. And he's absolutely right. When I was in college, there was I don't exactly remember how I came across this story, if it was a lecture I was listening to or what it was. The story was that there was this famous piano player that was, plays at like all of the big houses across the country and across the world, and Carnegie Hall and all that kind of thing. And he said, and this is somebody that I don't even remember the guy's name, but he was recognized as like one of the best pianists living right now. And he said, if I don't practice for a day, I don't notice. If I don't practice for 2 days, I notice. And if I don't practice for 3 days, the audience notices. And that always stuck with me. And, I kind of half believed it. And maybe that's not 100% true for everybody. Maybe we're not at that level that he's at, one of the best in the world. I know I'm not. So, maybe when you get to that point, for me, I don't think 3 days is going to do it. But I'll tell you what, if I take off for 3 months, I absolutely notice it. So this last couple weeks ago, our church had our grand opening service and dedication service for our new church building. We've been going about 11 years, and we've been in schools for a few years, and we had this warehouse that we renovated for the last 8 years, and then finally we built our building. So we were building our building, and we invited an artist to come in that's a friend of ours. His name is Jaron Davis, and in the Christian world, especially in like the songwriting world of like in that Christian songwriting bubble, he's pretty famous. He wrote this song called Holy Ground years ago that did really well. He's won Dove Awards, all that kind of thing. Anyway, so he came in, and I knew him from Nashville. When I was in Nashville, I kind of have aspired to be a studio musician for acoustic guitar. I felt like that would be really, really neat. And in my mind, the epitome of a good musician is someone that you can just hand a chart to, and they could play it, just without having to really even think about it. You just hand them a chart, and they can just read it. Like in my mind, I thought that's what a real musician is. So I aspired to do that. It's been a lot of time practicing and working on my just reading capabilities. And there's the whole Nashville system, playing in numbers, and I got pretty good at all that. So you could hand me a chart and I could play it without any problem. And the style of music that he played when he was here at the dedication is a little bit different than kind of what I'm normally used to. Not super different, but it's a little bit more structured, and there's a lot more intricacies as far as like, there's running bass lines more and just probably more chord changes than typical. And he handed out a chart that 10 years ago would have been no problem for me to read. And there was a couple times in like the first kind of run couple run-throughs we were playing it, I had to like stop and find myself and catch myself, and I realized I am not nearly the guitar player that I was 10 years ago. This is kind of nuts. And the fact is, I just haven't done it in a long time. I haven't sat down and been forced to play a chart, boom, just like that, without having to practice it beforehand. And so that really is true, that you can lose it. Now, what's interesting is I think there's actually some levels of my playing that have gotten better than I used to be. Like, for instance, I feel like my time is a lot better, and it's because for about the last 3 or 4 years, maybe the last 3 years solid, our group has been playing with a click track. And so, basically anytime I've played live over the last few years has been with a click, and I feel like my time, like keeping in tempo, has been a lot more solid than it was in the past. And so it's interesting kind of seeing how that's happened. Like, one area of my playing has gotten better, but another one has significantly gotten worse. And I don't know. I don't even know exactly what to think of my playing, because I don't know if that's something that I'm like, well, I got to get that back, or maybe I should focus on a different area and get better at that. If I'm not having to play that type of music and be forced to be in that situation, is there even a point to me like going back and getting really, really, really good at reading charts first time through, or is it okay to kind of struggle with that because it's only once in a blue moon that I'm in that situation? Wouldn't it be better to focus on other things? I don't know. Maybe you guys can help me with that as I'm processing through that. But that was something that was very interesting. And then another thing that happened recently is normally I play acoustic guitar when I'm playing, and our electric guitar player was out of town, and so we kind of swapped around, and someone else played acoustic and I played electric guitar. And that next week of rehearsal, I was like, man, I am so glad you're back, because I was not very good on electric. And he said, oh man, I'm sure you were great. And again, it's just been a while that I've played electric guitar, and especially lead with electric guitar. Some people, that's harder to do when you're playing lead lines and you're singing. I know that's difficult for me. I really have to practice that, and I struggle with it. So those two areas in my life that was the case, that I just kind of have really felt myself diminish a little bit. But I guess really what it comes down to is I'm not discouraged by it. More than anything, it kind of opened up my eyes and made me go like, okay, in order to continually progress as a musician, it always takes effort. It always takes time to practice. Always takes time to develop new things, new techniques, new skills. And I really think that the best musicians do that. And a lot of times I'll think about myself, or think about people that I envision as being just great guitar players, and what has their playing been? Like Eric Clapton, how does Eric Clapton play now? Like, is he any good? No, obviously he's probably awesome. Is he any good is not what I meant. What I meant was, is he getting any better? Because in my mind, when I think of Eric Clapton, I don't think of Eric Clapton as an older guy. I think of Eric Clapton as in the 70s, and kind of like classic Eric Clapton. So I wonder if he makes that association. I wonder if he looks back and he goes, man, I've improved in these areas over the last 10 years. And really what it comes down to is, I don't think that I don't even think I would be able to tell those things that he's improved on, but he probably can. And he probably is at that level where if he doesn't practice for a week or doesn't play for a while, that he notices it the next time he picks up a guitar. I don't know. It's an interesting thought. If I ever meet Eric Clapton, I will ask him. If any of you know him, ask him and let me know what he says. Anyway, let me know what you've experienced in your playing life. If you felt like you've ever had a period of time where you've gotten worse at being a musician, worse at whatever instrument you're playing, and share that story with me. I'd love to hear it. Anyway, Kennis Russell out. If you like this video, please hit this thing, the thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already, and I'll see you in another video.